Welcome to Night City, as I am racing the clock to get this channel finished before 2077 arrives. This time around, the topic on hand is Land of the Free, the only box set ever released for 2020, and their largest adventure by a huge margin. It's the cyberpunk version of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, only with a much higher body count. It's also a huge railroad as far as player options go, which is odd because that's one of the few methods of transportation you don't use in this adventure. It's time to stop at Buc-ee's and blow all the budget on jerky, soda, and fudge. I'm Mr. Welch, and we're road tripping. Land of the Free is the work of Will Moss. It was released in 1994 with the core 120-page rulebook and a whole host of handouts. The cover art was recycled from Doug Anderson's Home of the Brave, and it features a whole host of interior artists. You don't need Home of the Brave to play, but it really helps. The box set in its entirety is not available as a reprint, and used, it's rarer than hen's teeth. I looked all over for a relevant priced one and came up empty. Not one copy was available for sale, intact or not. It's only available as a PDF on drive-thru, so if you want the box set to fill your shelf, good luck. The module is flawed. Might as well get that out of the way first. Not just the fact it's one of the most linear railroads I've ever seen in any setting. The module gives ways to shoot down every single option to go cross-country the players can think of. It's also hard to accommodate a lot of player roles in adventure that require secrecy as well as mobility. If one character is a cop in Night City, once he leaves the city limits, his authority is nil. Fixers have to leave behind their contacts because of the secrecy involved, as well as the fact that they're out of their comfort zone. Corps can't use their resources to make this adventure easier. Medias are sitting on the story of the century and have to keep their mouths shut. For the more social-oriented roles, the module takes away their purpose and their abilities. Solos shoot, med-techies heal, techies tinker. That's all fine. But when one role is about having massive amounts of contacts, when you take that away, you've got a face with no voice. Then the game master has to bend over backwards to keep the nomad from just joining up with a caravan and using strength of numbers to overcome the adventure. That is something you will have to address before you even start the module. It's going to take away a lot of toys for several characters while leaving others unscathed. Before you run the first chapter, you will need to plan a workaround so a cop is just not a subpar solo. The adventure starts with an extraction. There's multiple ways to run the extraction. You can break into a building or you can ambush her on the streets. That's up to the player. That's one of the last choices they'll get to make, though. The extraction goes off without a hitch. The getaway is what goes sideways as the airship gets taken down by various aircraft and the party barely avoids death in the first few scenes of the adventure. The airship crashes in Nashville and the party has to figure out a way to get to Night City. From there, the party is given its instructions. While the adventure says you can easily replace going to Mardi Gras in New Orleans with a similar party in the Great Lakes, good luck with that. Speaking from experience, there's a lot you can do in New Orleans in February that you can't do in Minnesota. The entire adventure is one set piece after another, with the players required to go along so the adventure can happen. That's a major flaw in the adventure. I've run it multiple times and my players have always had the same complaints. The module has a lot of self-inflicted wounds, with bad guys smarter than the players no matter what. A ton of background events happening that are required for the adventure, but are going to come across as random events for the players. The premise of the adventure is the players have a super hot commodity they've got to get cross-country, but then it thrusts the party into every major metropolitan scene en route. Even when the commodity makes the players public enemy number one across the nation, they still have to head into several large and medium-sized cities, instead of hitting smaller towns and avoiding large crowds. I can't get too much into the adventure without giving away all the spoilers, but you're going to face random military types, unskippable ambushes, and random NPCs that are just going to show up. These are necessary so you can have the adventure. But the players are going to get frustrated that in a massive road trip, their options going from east to west coast is one narrow and suspiciously specific path. The Rockies are going to be the biggest issue, obviously, but Denver and Boise are options, and you're going to draw a lot less attention burning through potato country. Working this module into an existing campaign is going to be tough. Like I stated previously, several classes are nerfed by the clandestine and cross-country nature of the adventure. To accommodate several of the roles in Cyberpunk, you're going to have to take away their toys, or else the module is over or the entire premise is ruined by the resident media or rocker boy just doing their job. To get the maximum enjoyment, I would strongly recommend pre-gen characters, so you're not stuck with players that have little to do in the adventure. The extras thrown in with the box set add some atmosphere to the adventure, but apart from the map of the US, it doesn't add much. You get some business cards, some stock vehicles that you're going to have to cut out with an X-Acto knife to actually use, and there's some standard data term sheets for the players to read. The map is probably going to be the only thing you'll use outside this adventure. It is the best accessory from the set. Good luck finding a set with all of them intact, though. Going into this review, I had my nostalgia goggles all the way on. I remember getting this box with some excitement and running it more than once. Now looking at it without the gleam of new shiny stuff in my eyes, I can see it was a flawed product, or at least not marketed the way it should have been. But enough with the negative stuff. It's time to move on to a new adventure, one that involved all the players the way they should have been included. I'm talking about Euro Tour, the romp across Europe trying to keep self-destructive Rockstar Jack Entropy alive. Well, at least until you get paid.